Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Wolves Report, where tonight we're joined by our regular pundits, Chris Tyler and Mark Knock. Good evening, gentlemen. As you can hear in the background, we've got a nice theme for tonight. So, let's wait for that song to finish, just about. There we go. What a time to talk about it. What a game yesterday. What a result. Well, not particularly a game, a result in a moment. Southampton 0, Wolves 1. Tyler, let's get cracking on it.
Yeah, I think you're right. The result was tremendous, just what we needed. The performance was bang average again, and I'm sure we'll come on to that shortly. But going to places like that on a Sunday afternoon, having a great start to the season. Talk about a 6-pointer was probably a bit premature, but it was a game that we certainly couldn't afford to lose. A draw might have been okay, but to go there and I think we probably did sort of nick the 3 points in the end. I think if you're a Southampton fan, you'd probably feel slightly hard done by having nearly 20 shots, the bulk majority of the possession. Probably chances you wouldn't, put your mortgage on and expect, the Southampton players to score. And I think we saw the game out quite comfortably in the end, for a Wolves team anyway. But yeah, I think the moment was obviously the goal, the release, the relief, seeing Raul back to how we know he is, the strength, the power, the pace, the touch, the finish. I mean, that was worth, the trip alone, the cost, the money, that, it was all rolled into that moment. So average performance, still concerns in my opinion, but a big 3 points. And you just feel better on a Monday, don't you, when your team have won? So it's been a nicer feeling today.
Absolutely. It wasn't by far the best performance. I would say in terms of league performances, it was probably our second worst performance. Not nowhere near as bad as Brentford. But as we all know, when it comes to the crunch, and particularly if it's in your favour, there's only one stat that counts, and that's the score. Knocker, enjoy that game?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Look, I understand what Chris is saying. It wasn't our best performance, but sometimes you just need to win a football match, and we just needed to find a way to win it after the Brentford debacle and obviously losing to Spurs on penalties. And we just needed 3 points from somewhere, however it came. And I thought Saints played quite well, but I think we did to them what a lot of teams have done to us. We had that clinical finisher up front, they didn't, and we punished them. And 40 seconds in, Semedo's had his 23rd one-on-one of the season, and keeper saved it. But so we did create chances, and I thought the first sort of half an hour was like a basketball game. Both teams just flying at each other. There was the performances from both of us were pretty sporadic. In all honesty, there was all sorts going on. There was it was a crazy first half in particular, but you just got to win. We found a way to win the game, which is something we haven't managed to do all season. So I'm absolutely delighted with the 3 points. It was massive for us, especially after the week we had.
Well, yeah, it was a tough week. The Brentford game was a wake-up call. We thought we were flying, and that was it after Watford. The Brentford game, when we wasn't just second best. There was only 2 teams where it was that bad. We were third best. And then we had a bit of heart against Southampton for a really good second half. And then, I mean, we all, I think we all 1 draw and 2 wins on the predictions last week. But, I mean, all that really counted was getting the result. And they managed to do that, which, like you said, Chris, there's a lot of concerns. But just on the subject of the game, I thought the team selection was quite interesting. I certainly wasn't expecting it. I mean, we all sort of hoped and thought it would be 4 at the back, but kind of expected it really to be 5 at the back because I couldn't see him make any changes so soon. So we got the formation. We just didn't expect the personnel. Hwang and Podence coming in and no Willy Boly. All real big shocks to me, Chris. But clean sheets. So the manager's justified his decision, hasn't he?
I think I used the word hindsight last week, and you can use it again today, can't you? With the fact that clean sheet on the road, happy days. I mean, I was in the concourse, got there quite early, and the teams came up, and there was certainly a few murmurings from the Wolves fans. It's not often you see a Wolves team without Boly, Jimenez, and Adama in it if they're all fully fit. And in my opinion, I text you, Ryan. For me, if them 3 are fit, they play. I think they're our 3 best players. Boly and Neves are in the spine. But going back to your question, he's got got the result, got the clean sheet. I think the back three were good. I'm one of those advocates that I don't think Connor Cody's good enough and Romain Save's good enough in the back three, but I thought they were solid as a rock. Admittedly, they're probably up against two strikers that aren't really going to trouble the scorers this season when it comes to the top scoring chart in Armstrong and Adams. So I think they had a fairly comfortable afternoon. But it says a little bit about the squad. There were options on the bench again. The fact you can bring Neves and Adama on is brilliant. I think sooner or later Bolly has to come in and start football matches. He's too good a player to leave out. Podence and Hwang, the two you mentioned, did they stake a claim? In my opinion, probably not. I thought Podence was poor in the first half, especially. He did give the ball away a lot. Hwang's industrious, and I think there's more to come from him. And he certainly works extremely hard, and you could never fault that. But yeah, strange team selection, but justified in the end. Came back with the 3 points.
Well, I think the thinking, just from, I don't know the thinking, I'm just guessing, but in terms of his thinking, Wolves weren't really scoring a lot of goals. Podence had scored a couple of goals in the Cups, probably deserved to start. I'm not sure he took his chance. Hwang is just he's a pressing machine. He's relentless. He's at them. I'm not really sure. He obviously scrambled the ball home at Watford, which I was very, very pleased about, but I'm not sure in terms of quality. We've seen a lot yet. He presses and he's forced some mistakes and errors. But just following on from what Chris said, Knocker, he's fully justified it, isn't it? We can't really complain. And why would you complain? But what I would say is, though, a brilliant goal has probably papered over what was a very average performance, in my opinion. Knocker?
Yeah, the game's heading for a 0-0 draw, really, isn't it? And then Raul, absolutely unbelievable goal. To have the strength to hold off Bednarek and the speed. And then I don't think many people spoke about the first actual touch he had, where he takes it back across the defender, completely takes him out of the game.
Outside of his right foot.
Yeah, sits Bednarek down for a second time, and then keeper might as well just get out of the way. He's never going to miss after he's done all that. And I thought he was good. I thought he set Semedo up again in the first half, and he was everywhere. He's a real good player. There was some talk of some people wanted Hwang to come into that position, but for me, I think if Raul's fit, you've got to play him because if he will probably spend 40% of the game with his back to goal. He's always looking to keep the ball, hold it up, bring other people in. Whereas I think Hwang's very much get the ball, get himself turned, and just go steaming forward and see what he can do. And he rats around, which is a nice option to have. But yeah, going back to the performance, it wasn't silky. It wasn't our best, and but I couldn't care less. The selection was surprising. I don't think anybody would have predicted that. But Cody had a good game, and I think I don't think in a couple of months from now that's going to be anywhere near our starting 11. But I think it certainly did the job, and he was brave to make those decisions as well. It's nice to have a manager who's got the courage to say, right, I'm going to leave arguably the 2 best players out of the team. And we're gonna win it anyway. But I thought Adama, when he came on, struggled. I don't think he plays the impact sub particularly well. I think if you're going to play Adama, it's got to be from the start. Neves comes on and he's his usual self, isn't he? He always performs the same way. But yeah, 3 points, an absolute wonder goal, and to see Raul score that after the year he's had and almost a calendar year since he got that injury, to come in and to have the confidence to do that, because he's missed a few chances this season. There's been a couple of big opportunities that he's put wide, but to do that. It's absolutely unbelievable finish, and the whole lot's gone up when he's put that in the back of the net. It's just if you didn't have a little bit of a tear in your eye or a few butterflies in your belly when that one hit the back of the net, then you're not human, I'm afraid.
Well, that's what it's all about, and obviously we're all delighted, and we'll move on to having a section about Raul shortly. But as we said, it's a results business, and that's all that counts. And I think after those performances, it felt like Wolves defaulted more into more of a Nuno shape and performance when they wasn't probably as attacking and pressing as high up as they was in the first 3 games, probably in the 4th game as well. And they sort of reset with a lot of Nuno's team and players. And I don't mind. If Wolves win, I don't really care who plays or what formation or how they set up. But it seemed like a step back to basics to what we know, and it was something to build on. In terms of the defence, they did great. But I think last week, Ivan Toney, he's not just going to show Sace and Cody up. He's going to show a lot of Premier League teams up. You've only got to look at the game against Liverpool. Brentford knocking 3+ Liverpool. I think that shows how good Brentford are this season. I mean, I know they're this year's Leeds and a breath of fresh air, and fair play. They've got a style of playing. They know what they're doing, and you have to take your hat off for that. So while that's probably enough on the Southampton game, we'll go deeper in a few subjects, and we've talked about him already. But let's talk about the return of Raul Jimenez. Let's embrace that goal and talk through it and celebrate the man being back himself. So, but as we talked about the goal, it just looked like a hopeful punt. I know he tried that a few times, but Jimenez has got his body into Bednarek, held him off and span, and strength, pace, touch. It's so good. I mean, you were at the top of the away end, Tyler. How did that feel?
Probably just about coming down from it now, to be honest. It was, I mean, all goals are, especially away from home, they're a bit of a release of energy, aren't they? But it did feel slightly different, not just for the supporters, but, for him, and you saw the whole team basically, come and congratulate. I don't think the game kicked off for another 4 or 5 minutes after the ball had hit the net because, it was such a moment. And, you've heard all the pundits today and all the neutrals say what a great moment for him. But for Wolves fans to see him do that, it is massive. He's, like Mark said, he's missed a couple of chances. There's arguments from people that, Fabio needs to start and maybe put Bang there. But, never from me. As I said, last week, if he got one leg, he plays up front for me. He was just back to himself first half and picked up in the second half, winning those big headers from goal kicks, sort of getting stuck in. The one for Semedo, he won the ball back and, blink of an eye, he's laid it off to him. You could talk about the goal all day and, I watched it back 50 times. But like you said, a big credit to Sarr, and I know, we're going to talk about him a little bit later, but I thought he had a very sound performance in goal, making saves and coming and getting crosses. Obviously, he had the bit of a rick in the first half, but I didn't mind that much because it shows he's comfortable with the ball at his feet. It's a goalkeeper that's happy to play from the back. He's comfortable to receive it. And like you said, 2 or 3 times, he sort of arrowed those balls flat. And it's a bit of a weapon now, if the opposition put a cross or a corner in and he gets it, Hwang, Adama, Raul, they're ready to go. They're spinning in behind. And it was, to class it as an assist is a bit much in my opinion because Raul had a hell of a lot to do. But
good a few dreams.
Just to see him, exactly. Just to see him back was, it was just a relief, I think. Yeah, you could tell the weight had lifted in there. It can only be good news for him, for us, for the players.
Yeah, as Tyler said then, Knocker, you almost saw after he scored the goal, the relief. I mean, he always is a confident guy. I know he tried the crossover cross last week, the Rabona cross last week, and messed that up. And that sort of summed his season up a little bit so far then. But you know what? He still had the confidence to try it. But to score that goal, Knocker, having missed a few chances, to have the audacity to turn inside out, the touch, the strength, this can kick Wolves season on now, can't it?
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, I don't think you can underestimate just how big that goal is. It's as big as the points for me because we know how good he is. We know the quality he's got. I mean, ever since the first game he come in against Everton and he banged that header in, he's never looked back, has he? I mean, he's a top class striker. I think we would have been receiving some pretty big offers for him if it hadn't been for the injury. But he seems settled here. He seems happy. The fans love him, and he's if you've got a firing Raul Jimenez, he's as good as anything in the league as far as I'm concerned. He can do everything. He holds the ball up. He plays people in. He shoots. He controls. He doesn't take the effort if he doesn't need to take the effort. He's just an all-round number 9. He's absolutely fantastic. And he's a dying breed. There's not many like him. There really is. And he's one of the last of that kind of player, And I think we're very, very lucky to have him. And if we can get him firing, and we've got games coming up where, on paper, he should be getting a few opportunities, and if he can get himself another one next week, then I think he's well and truly back in the mix. And Jimenez scoring will take us up the league. There's absolutely no question about that because it was the difference on the day. They didn't have that striker. They sold him to Villa. We had him. Mm-hmm. We've won the game, and that's what those kind of players do. You win battles in midfield. Defensively, you keep teams at bay, but it's your strikers that win your football matches, and he was absolutely exquisite. And that finish was. How do you do that after a year out? You know, how can you possibly do that after a year out? It's just the arrogance of it. You know, when you've got, the Bednarek's a big defender. He's a big unit, and he's just get off, pushed him out of the way, and then he's come back. He's done him again. It's fantastic. He's beautiful to watch. He's you know, you can't speak highly of him, and his attitude as well. He's you know, he seems like a really nice guy. He's a family man, and he enjoys being in Wolverhampton. So, you know, the longer we've got him, the better. Just
digressing slightly. Do you think Bednarek had any onions on his hot dog? Absolutely roasted him. Sat him down, didn't he? But as we were talking about then with Raul, before his injury, a lot of pundits and writers were saying that Raul was one of the most complete number 9s in the Premier League. That's how good he was. So obviously last season, it's no surprise that Wolves took a massive dip without his inclusion. But on Sunday, it looked like we had that player back. I mean, in terms of chances created, I think we mentioned this last week, he was near the top or at the top in terms of I'm not sure the terminology, but in terms of like basic chances created, I believe that he was at the top of the list or near that list now. That tells me he's been doing everything but score goals. Obviously, he had the header at Watford and the header last week, but great to see Raul back and buzzing. And as you said, Knocker and Tyler as well, the embraces individually from his teammates. Dendoncker came and gave him a big hug. Marçal, everyone was just so pleased because you can't imagine going through something so serious that was potentially life-threatening to come back and then score a Premier League goal. And as you said, Knocker, to have the confidence stroke arrogance. I mean, we were all, as he got that chance, shoot. But he was the most composed man in the stadium. We're all thinking, just hit it. He was so cool. He knew what he was doing. He believed. And I really think this will be the sort of him kicking on for the rest of our season. And in theory as well, in a more attacking team, hopefully, that should mean more chances and more goals. I mean, I might be getting ahead of myself. It's his first goal back, but more chances, more goals. But we've got a match winner. Wolves played poorly, but Raul was the difference. As you said, Knocker, Southampton sold their number 9 to Villa. We kept ours, and he was the difference. So delighted. Right then, let's while we're up there, let's move it down. We always have a couple of these a week. Let's talk about Let's talk about Marçal now. We talked about Marçal last week. He was warned by the referee to stop his wrestling or whatever. He was the jiu-jitsu he was trying to do on the forward. He did it again and gave away the penalty. And it was just a real stinker. Now, yesterday, I know Wolves got a clean sheet and he was part of that, in theory, the defensive back 5. Have to give credit for that. However, anything I think he did over the halfway line was very bad, very, very bad. Now, I'd be surprised if Aït-Nouri didn't get a look in next week because Marçal had so much of the ball high up the pitch and wasted it again and again. And I mean, I can't knock the guy's tenacity. He's angry. He's got that bit of shit housing we need and we miss in the team. But in terms of the quality on the ball, it's been poor, hasn't it, the last few games? So, what we're going to do with him, Knocker?
He's a complete lottery, isn't he? I mean, he goes from looking like a world beater to looking like he's won a competition to play. He's such a... you just don't know what you're going to get from him. I mean, personally, I'd like to see Aït-Nouri get in the team. I've got a little feeling the result yesterday might just save Marçal for next week. I mean, we've seen him on his day. He's really good. He can bomb up and down that wing. He can get up to the positions. He does cross balls into the box. It's defensively that concerns me. And I think what keeps him in the team over Aït-Nouri is the fact that defensively we assume he's better. And I'm not so sure that's true anymore. I think that he looks reckless. He's giving the ball away. He seems to be taking far too long over possession at the moment, not deciding what to do with it. And then he's either shanking it out of play or he's giving it away. So I don't know, maybe take him out the firing line potentially and just assess it further down the line. But for me, I think Aït-Nouri is better than Marçal going forward. And I think defensively now it's very, very close between the two. But for me, I think Aït-Nouri edges it at the moment. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I mean, I after the Watford game, we did a podcast, didn't we? And I sort of made special mention to him. You know, he'd got an assist, 2 assists that day, didn't he, actually? But I don't know, it's strange. He seems to have just lost a bit of belief. Maybe, I mean, you don't have his pedigree and his background, you know, in Champions League football if you're not steady footballer, do you? But I think certainly if we're going to continue with three centre backs, I want to see a more attacking, wing back on that side. A lot of the play seems to go down the left for Wolves. Certainly yesterday I noticed it would go from Cody to Saïss, and Saïss is looking to clip it or play it, to Marçal. And a lot of the play was down the left-hand side, and it was just very limited. And, you could argue, as we've talked about, Saïss probably isn't fully comfortable at left centre back. You've then got Marçal at left wing back in front of him. It's a very slow, unmobile pairing, really. And I think he got away with it when Adama was playing as, the inverted left winger. Like you mentioned before, Ryan, he didn't have to go past the halfway line. He'd only have to pass it 5 yards and Adama would be off, see you later. Now that's not the case. I think it's just showing him up a little bit through his limitations going forward. And if we stay as a back three, as I've said, for me, Aït-Nouri gets the nod.
Yeah, some interesting. I'm going to drop in some questions and comments on that subject. Martin Webb, who's a regular watcher and listener, and a few of us have said this before. What about Marçal at left centre back and Aït-Nouri at left wing back? Now, we know. I think in the Champions League he played left centre back of a three. Sometimes I don't know the full background on that, but that kind of now the question is there though. Saïss was terrible last week, but he was all right yesterday. I thought he played quite well. I thought all the three centre backs, Cody, him, thought they were good. So potential at Marçal at left centre back and Aït-Nouri left wing back. I mean, I wouldn't be against it. Nucker, go on, tell me what you think.
Not for me. I think I can see the thinking there because I know he can play there and he will offer us something different. But I think if you're going to make a change at left centre back, it's Willy Boly. I don't think there can't be a coin toss between Boly and Marçal in that position. Boly's a better player. Boly comes in.
It's interesting though, and I know we're sort of digressing, but Martin also mentioned something as well. Larg doesn't fancy Boly either, which is a bit of a concern. Sort of that feeds onto what you've said. You would have thought after a good cup game, and I thought he was one of the players that was pretty solid throughout the game, that Boly may have came in the weekend. But again, we go back. We can't really question it because they've kept a clean sheet. So, I mean, for me, on his day fit, 18 months ago, Boly, which I thought we saw a bit of on Wednesday night, comes back into the side. But if Wolves are keeping clean sheets, I don't really mind who plays. But he's interesting. One again, thank you, Martin, for that. Yeah. So
I think just going back to that, I don't think it's a case he doesn't fancy Boly. I think that we know Boly suffers a lot with injuries. He's been out a lot.
That's a fair point.
He gives him 90 minutes against Spurs. It's then a big ask potentially. I know we were all calling for it. It was a big ask to then bring him in against Southampton for another 90 minutes when you know that he has got a bit of a risk of breaking down. So I think we'll get more of an idea whether he fancies him or not in the next 4 or 5 games. If he doesn't force his way in that point, then yeah, you may be absolutely spot on that he doesn't fancy him. But for me, I just think it's slowly bringing him in and just developing him, because if he is fit, we all know that there can't be any question who our best centre back is if he's on form. So I'm not sure it's so much that he doesn't fancy him. I just think he's just protecting him at the moment.
So just going back to the what we're talking about with Marçal. Now we questioned last weekend whether the manager's got the bottle or got the balls to make some big changes, and he did. It just wasn't the changes that we made. So, and would we have learnt the lesson from the game at Watford that you don't necessarily have to keep a winning team anymore? You can change it up if you want. A lot of the bigger teams do that. They don't play the same 11 every week. So would that indicate then with Aït-Nouri's really good performance, does Aït-Nouri start next week, or has Marçal done enough because it was a clean sheet? Now, I think you two are going to be split on that, and you kind of mentioned it earlier on. For me, I mean, I think we're all quite purist, the three of us. We like attacking football, we want passing football. And in terms of the amount of ball that that Marçal got on Sunday, if you put Aït-Nouri in that position, I think Wolves are going to create a lot more because he can go past the man. And as you've seen from that corner he put in from for then Donker scoring the week, he can put a ball in as well. Stick or twist, Tyler?
Yeah, Newcastle at home is the back three. I'm twisting all day long. We love, when we like to see Semedo on the other side getting forward, marauding forward. He could have scored within 45 seconds. So I think if you've got the cover of 3 centre backs and you're potentially now playing a bit of a deeper midfield too, there's no reason for me why we have got the more attacking option out of the two. Nothing personal to Marçal. I don't think he's done much wrong. Yeah, he could have played better on Sunday, but with 3 centre-backs and potentially 2 non-marauding midfielders in front of them, let's get another player that can, hurt the opposition a bit more, would be my take.
Yeah, Knocker, I think you'd like to keep with Marçal, wouldn't you? Or,
No,
roll the dice?
I would like to play Aït-Nouri, but I suspect he will keep Knocker. I don't think they'll be... I think the performance aside, I think probably the fact we've won the game potentially saves him for me. But if it was up to me, I'd be definitely playing Aït-Nouri without question.
Yeah, I think so. I just think with that, I know I don't like using this turn of phrase, but it was very Nuno-esque sort of setup and style and trying to keep things tight. But if we're going to progress with the more attacking football, surely it's got to be Aït-Nouri in terms of, because he could offer similar to what Semedo offers, because we've seen Semedo clean through, I think 3 times, twice at Watford, once on Sunday. Now, if we could get Aït-Nouri into those positions, you know what I mean? I don't ever see Marçal getting into those positions, but it's a nice problem to have. There's 2 left backs, very different to each other, and maybe if Johnny comes back as well. Just a quick thank you to Martin, who's pinged over loads of opinions and questions there. Really appreciate that. They're all coming through on YouTube. The format has changed on Twitter. I don't know if you can still ask the question. I've not seen anyone ask a question on Twitter yet. If someone could ping one over, if you can. If not, we'll look into that. But thank you for any of your questions and comment. All your questions so far, much appreciated. So after we've talked about Marçal, then we've talked about Raul. We talked about Southampton. I know this is Tyler being an ex-goalkeeper himself of an okay level, I guess.
He's brought it up again.
Oh, come on.
Scuffed it.
It's a finish, mate. I scored them all on you. Let's talk about Jose Sarr and the impact. Well, let's talk about mainly his performance on Sunday. I probably could count up the one mistake. He got a bit too cocky, maybe a little bit complacent with the clearance. He didn't get blocked. He was just forced. I think that was his one mistake. Yeah. Otherwise, I thought that was a totally dominant modern day keeper performance that's essential to our style of play. Keeper Tyler, what do you think?
Oh yeah, because I'm an expert in the field.
Couldn't catch your cold.
I'll probably go back a year or so, and I think I said it to you boys, and you're probably a bit. I think Ryan, you might have been surprised. I sort of saw the chinks in Rui's armour, so I was probably one of the fans. But when Patricio left, I wasn't really too bothered about it. We'd all agree he was a very good line goalkeeper. He was a very good shot stopper. He never commanded his area, and his kicking and his distribution was limited. So it's nice to see a goalkeeper come in who does, like you said, he looks like a modern day goalkeeper. As I said, at the start of the podcast, rightly or wrong, I don't necessarily mind a keeper making a mistake like that, because for me it shows he's willing to play a bit. He's comfortable with the ball at his feet. Don't get me wrong, if it ricochets into the back of the net, I'm fuming. But it was a solid all-round performance. Good from the crosses. Southampton were getting a little bit of a head of steam second half. That's probably a bit far as a head of steam, but it just felt like he wasn't going to be beaten that day. I think we had a bit of a shaky start. The Dele Alli penalty was a bit of a rush of the blood to the head, and I certainly think he should have saved Greenwood's shot for the Man United winner. So wasn't the best start to his Wolves career, but yeah, there was good signs on Sunday, and the distribution, topped it off. As I said, he did it 2 or 3 times, and it's used as a weapon now. So if Raul hadn't have scored, he gets my man of the match, just picked by a moment of brilliance, really, for me.
Yeah, I mean, you've summed it up perfectly there, but Knocker, it's hard not to be.
Expert.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised, mate, because I've never seen you make a save in your life. But you've shot me. You've shot me again. But Knocker, it's £7.5 million. Fits our style better. He can put players clean through, blocking, commanding. Bargain. Yeah,
I think the money we got for Rui at his age, to bring in Sal for that kind of money, who's a younger version who potentially could be a better keeper over time. I think it's a great bit of business. He does have elements to his game that we definitely need to improve. There is some very sporadic moments. There's a few rushes of blood here and there. But I mean, I think we saw potentially how good he can be. I mean, the double save I thought was excellent. He's up quick. He's instantly looking to get himself back into the position. The long ball for Raul was no accident. As Chris rightly said, he's done that a few times, and it is a weapon for us now. I think generally his distribution's a lot better than Rui's, and I think he seems quite commanding in the box to me. You want a goalkeeper who you feel like is going to wipe out everyone in his way when that ball's swinging into the box, and I get that kind of impression with him. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, there has been issues this season. I think there has been a few moments, like you say, especially the Greenwood goal should never go in, but he's still finding his feet. And I know it's not just outfielders that need to settle into teams; it's goalkeepers as well. He needs to feel comfortable. He needs to develop his game into that team, and I think he's definitely showing signs now that he's going to be a real good buy for us, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've liked him from the off because as much as I loved Rui under the old system, you were okay having a 6-yard keeper because he didn't really have to come out of his box much. But this, for me, was one of the most important signings because if we are eventually going to play with that higher line, yes, we didn't play it on Sunday, but the one time he was tested when it was handball, we didn't know at the time. He's come out and he's sprinted out. I mean, that's exactly what we need, and that will give your defenders the confidence to play a higher line so they can believe that their keeper's going to be there, because sweeper keepers, I mean, coming in all over the place now. And no criticism of Rui, he's not a sweeper keeper. He was an outstanding shot stopper for the first couple of years in the Premier League, but not so much, didn't really want to come outside. So, I mean, it was quite a funny stat on Twitter. Someone tweeted out that, I don't know if it was William Hill, said that Jose Sarr's now got more assists this season than Jadon Sancho. I thought,
yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
you've got to laugh at that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm sure the Man U fans won't be happy about that. But
I'm not hugely surprised, to be totally honest with you. I think United have absolutely had the pants pulled down over that signing.
Well, we did talk about this. I thought that was a lot of money, but Man U like a big sign, don't they? But anyway, this isn't a Man U podcast, and let's not worry about them. Just a quick thank you to Ashley Bentley. He said the questions aren't coming through on Twitter, which is annoying because you usually get quite a few questions. I'll look into that. I know they've changed their setup in terms of it was on Periscope, but now it's going direct to Twitter. So I don't know if that format's in place anymore. It's something I'll look at. But thank you for the questions and comments. Appreciate the feedback on that, Ashley. So we've talked about Jose Sarr. Now we're going to move away a little bit this time now. This is something that the Athletic broke this morning regarding to the Premier League. Something that's a little bit concerning. It's not quite as bad as the European Super League or whatever, the Greed League or whatever they were going to call it, but there's early talks in place to take some Premier League games and play them in a neutral venue abroad, whether that's over America, Asia. I don't know. I didn't read the full article. I just read the headlines that there was in talks and it was years off. Now, for me, that's an absolute stinker. And as a fan, I follow Wolves everywhere, as do you boys. Not most people aren't going to be able to afford to do an away game in China or an away game in America. And I know they're doing it with the NFL, but football isn't a franchise. It's different. Now, from the money side of things, that the clubs will be rubbing their hands together. But if you put that to a season ticket vote, every club, I'm telling you, it's 20 out of 20 against it. So just some early feedback on that, Tyler. What do you make of that?
Not a lot, Ryan, to be honest. As you probably thought, I might be miserable. I might be a bit of a purist. I might be a bit grumpy about it, but yeah, it's just not for me at all. I think, like I said, football and English football is different. It's not a franchise. It's start at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, and obviously we've moved away from that a lot with TV and coverage and rights, etc. And that's bad enough, but that's obviously stuck in the game. But I just don't get it myself. Are you going to go watch Wolves against Burnley in China somewhere? I mean, who's it appealing to? I mean, the big four, the big six, it goes hand in hand with their conversations around the breakaway league and money and income. And yeah, people are going to want to go and watch those teams. But, for the teams at the bottom or the smaller clubs, the less glamorous clubs, I just don't see it. It's not for me at all. Never will be. Never has been. Nocky will probably put a better argument across than me, again, as to why not. But yeah, just not for me, unfortunately. I just don't see the benefit to the football fan, but they don't really seem to care about the football fan, do they? So,
I mean, just before Knock jumps in, Knock's dad, Big Knock, has been following Wolves for like 50 years plus, home and away, Blackpool, Carlisle, everywhere, 3 season games. That's a massive part of your dad's life. And for a club to decide that they can take a game or two away a season, for me, is absolutely disgusting. It's not just, but like, as it is for all of us, a win or a loss. A win makes your weekend as a Wolves fan. We love our football team.
yeah.
We're in WhatsApp groups chatting about it. We talk about it all the time. It's what can make or break your weekend. You love football. You love your football team. And that day out and that moment, the moment you had with your lad the weekend, Tyler, that's football. That's what we go for those moments. We're talking about it now because we love our team. So for, again, the big cheeses or the custodians to think they can take it away from us, for people like your dad, Knocker, it just really boils my... Yeah, it really, really does. So, I honestly, but anyway, Knocker, you take the floor before I say some rude words.
It absolutely stinks. I mean, you've said there the feeling of winning the game. It sounds ridiculous. A lot of my best memories of Wolves are not winning football matches. It's just being at the football match. It's that walking towards the ground, the smell of the pitch. Back in the day when they used to rub the liniment on the players, you had that wafting into the stands. That, you know, the smell of the pies, people having beers and chatting and talking about formations, and you try and explain to a non-football fan that feeling of the ball in the back of the net. It's just the most. I mean, I've had 2 kids, and when Alex Ray banged that goal in against Reading, I'm telling you, that was better. That was a better feeling, because that spontaneous moment of passion when the ball hits the net. I mean, you stood next to someone. He could be a bank manager. He could be he could be a shopkeeper, he could be a mass murderer, but you don't care. You're jumping all over him because it's that spontaneous feeling where nothing in the world matters other than your football team. Now, you take my team away, you take my team and tell me that you're going to play in China. You don't want me there. You don't want me there as a football fan. You want the Chinese people there because you want to push the brand. And I'm a supporter. I'm not part of the brand. You take my football away from me and you destroy the very foundation of what our game is built on. And football's not, it's not a game. It's not a game to me. It affects my day-to-day life. If we lose a football match, just don't talk to me for the rest of the day, because it gets under my skin. It gets into me. And yet when I went from, after we lost to Brentford, I'm thinking we're back in League One in 2 years. Now I think we can finish in the Champions League this year. That's what football does to you. It gives you hope. It gives you a belief that, you can do something, you can achieve something. And when my football team achieves something, I feel like I've achieved something. And the way the world is at the moment, it's so dark, and it's so, everyone's against each other. The world's a horrible place at the moment, but my football brings me back. It brings me into something, and it gives me something to believe in, as daft as it sounds. And it may seem over the top, but that's what it means to me. And if you move that abroad now, it's a kick in the teeth for everyone who's ever been involved in the game, anyone who's had a relative who's passed away, who used to follow the football team. You take that away, you're taking away what it is to be a football fan, and I just hate the idea of it. And from a financial point of view, I completely understand why they want to do it, because it will bring in millions. But like Chris says, you want to go and watch Wolves against Burnley? Of course you don't. And I think it'll affect the Man U, the Arsenal. It'll affect the big 6, because they're the ones who are going to be pushing it. And I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't a bit of a under-the-table deal as part of leave the Super League alone. We'll find other avenues to make you a little bit more income. But I know I'm going on a bit about this, but it's really important to me. It's like you say, my dad was one of the, he's been going for years. He's been to every hellhole you could possibly imagine, and he followed this club till his dying day, and to the idea that he can't go to that football match because they've decided we want to go and play it in Dubai, it's horrific. And the worrying thing for me is I'm reasonably sure our football club would be all over that if it was offered to them as well.
Yeah,
I've got to say, Knocker, you've absolutely kicked the shit out of that question. What an answer!
I told you you'd put it better than me, didn't I?
Wow. Honestly, I thought I'd fire him up in there with a few, like putting on a few emotional strings, but he has absolutely smashed that. So, but
I'm well enough here.
But it is though. I understand that more clubs want to make money, and that's a really good point. There might have been under the table deal. Don't join the Super League. You can make some more money from this. Now, I've got a compromise here, boys, and I didn't tell you this before off air. My compromise was, if you want to do that, pick one of the cup competitions, go and play your cup competition abroad. You want to play? Yeah, go and play your League Cup. Go and play. Not. I mean, I love the FA Cup as well, but there's a compromise there. The League Cup. You want to spruce that up. The competition that everyone plays their reserves in. Go and play it abroad. Go and play it in America. Go and play it in China.
No, not for me. Not for me.
Don't get him going again.
For me, that's a backdoor into. Okay, we've done this now. What else can we push into that? If you want to go and do this, if you want to go and play games abroad, then do your pre-season tournaments. They're usually sold out. If they're playing in New York, they're playing in China, wherever they want to. Oh, we won it, yeah. Might win the Champions League, but you'll never sing that, will you? But I think in terms of, I can understand your thinking behind the League Cup, but at the same time, I like going and watching the League Cup. It's an opportunity for me to take my son, who he struggles to get games. So why should that be taken away from him? He's the next generation of Wolves supporters coming through. So leave my League Cup alone as well. If you want to go abroad, you've got pre-season tournaments. You've got plenty of opportunities to do that. And if someone from abroad wants to watch the team, they get to watch them every Saturday at 3:00. We don't. Not legally anyway. So if they want to do that, then that's up to them. But if you want really that desperate to come and watch Wolverhampton Wanderers play, then you come to England and watch Wolverhampton Wanderers play, but leave my football alone.
And that's a fair point.
I told you not to wind him up again. Ryan.
Sorry, I'm about to punch the wall in a minute. I do apologise.
Just to be clear, Knocker, it was just a suggestion for debate. I didn't mean it. Wayne from on YouTube has said that idea is not for English fans; it's for fans in other country. You do realise, understand. Millions of Prem fans are from abroad. Yeah, I completely get that. I agree. And this, I can't argue with that, Wayne. You'll love this one. This one's for you. Look at the screen now, Knocker. Martin Webb up the knocker.
He's always been a good lad, Martin. Yeah, no, just going back to that. Sorry, Martin, I didn't mean to jump in.
How dare you?
You started me off again now.
Go on.
Just going back to that other point, I understand what that chap's saying in terms of it is a global game, but I don't expect New York Giants to come over here so I can watch them play. If I really wanted to go and see them play, I'll go over to New York.
Absolutely. Yeah. Martin, again, who's come up with some really good stuff for us tonight. Fosun would jump at the chance to expand the brand in America. You just know it. And unfortunately, I agree with Martin. I think they would. And I've got to be honest, and I know Wolves took a day and put out some tremendous correspondence about belittling the Super League, but you just know, if we were asked, we'd have said yes. Now, absolutely. I might be proven wrong. Jeff's welcome on the show to tell me I'm to tell me I'm wrong. But there's absolutely no way Wolves are turning the nose up at that. But what was warming about the reaction to that was the fans went bananas across the protest. Football come together as one. It felt like an England semi-final or a final. The football world come together and went, don't do that to our game. Pretty much what Knocker did then, but not quite as good. So I think it's a unanimous decision. We've even got to leave Knocker's League Cup alone. I bet your dad did some Anglo-Italian games, didn't he, Knocker, as well? He must have probably went to Empoli on a Wednesday.
I thought about it. My old dear weren't having that though. But we went to Birmingham City in the Anglo-Italian for some reason. I don't know how that came about, but again, it's another competition. I remember playing in the Anglo-Italian Cup because it was a game that my team played and it was a childhood experience for me. So they're all memories. It doesn't matter who you play. And we've had some stinkers in the League Cup, let's be honest. But it's still a tournament that you want to be involved in.
Cool. Well, I think Knocker stole the show on that one, hasn't he, Tyler? Before we go on to the team for Saturday against Newcastle, there's a few questions earlier on I want to go through. People have been kind enough to send them in. Tweeted earlier on today. Chris Worsfold, has tweeted, can we also respectfully address the Moutinho situation? We have to face it. He was extremely poor yesterday with some incredibly unintelligent decisions as well. Now, he's splitting the pack on me. I can't argue he was poor yesterday. For the first 3 or 4 games, Moutinho was excellent. But for whatever reason, last week and yesterday, he was like completely the other end of the scale. It seems to be really good or really bad. We've got to remember, he is 35. Still the best player I've ever seen at Wolves. But where do we go? I personally think we have to be careful with Moutinho. I don't want to write him off. He's still got a big part to play this year. It's just, what do we do? I mean, there's talk of a new contract. Tyler?
I was going to say, I think Bruno obviously likes him. I haven't got the figures in front of me, but he played the Forest game in the League Cup where he could quite easily have not played. He played Sunday over Neves, but I suppose Neves had played this week. So, Yeah, it is a funny one. I suppose everyone's entitled to a bad game, although saying that we've hammered Marçal early for having a bad game. So
We've had 2 bad games on the bounce for me.
yeah, for me, coming onto the Newcastle team, I take him out of my team for Newcastle, but I don't know if the style of the game suited him a bit more in the first few games of the season. We were a bit higher up the pitch, and he was the one actually almost pressing. He was the one closest to Raul a lot of the time, doing that pressing. And you wouldn't think a 35-year-old would want to really be doing that, but I think he's better when he's higher up the pitch. The ball's sort of into him quickly because he's a lot cleverer and a lot, quicker speed of thought than a lot of our other players. So I don't know. It is. For me, it's not quite an issue yet. It's not quite that bad. But saying that, when we come onto the lineups, I'm leaving him out on Sunday.
Okay, cool. Right, thanks for that, Chris. Well, thanks for Chris Worsfold for the question, and thanks that I've got this next question for you because we're flying through the time here again. Danny Powers, do you think Wolves will allow Jimenez to go to the international break this time round, Knocker? Well, go on.
I think they probably will, yeah, if everything's sorted out COVID-wise and it's safe for him to travel. I would expect him to go because I think he'll want to go. I think he wants to get himself back to normality as much as he possibly can after such a horrific injury. So I don't think they'll have any issue with him going. Pre-injury, it wouldn't even have been a question. He would have absolutely gone. From our point of view, we don't really want him to go because we want him here with us. We want him, we don't want to risk that injury, but I don't see any reason he won't go.
Well, there's 2 ways of looking at it. Raul looks like he's getting better the more games he plays. So instead of having 2 weeks off and not playing football, he could play. So there is a positive for that, but there is always an injury risk. I did my homework a little bit after Danny's question, didn't tell you to on that, but Mexico's still a red zone. So I don't know if the games are away, but if they are a red zone, in theory, then he can't travel, can he still? So as far as I'm aware, it would be a similar situation to the other Premier League players when we don't have to let our player travel. Now, I don't know. I'm not sure what the government are going to do, but I'd imagine if it's a red zone, then it'll be the same again. Let's move on to another question. Let's have a look. Richard Holmes, a good mate of mine, been following Wolves for years. Why so tepid in the first half? Surely Daniel Podence and Hwang had a chance to impress and didn't. Tyler?
Yeah. I think we probably covered that a little bit earlier. It was a chance for them to impress. I think Bruno was fair that, the goals and assists hadn't been coming from the other forward players. It seemed right to give them a game. Podence was probably the more disappointing for me because I think he's just got so much ability and he's such a natural footballer that, I don't know, we just kept him the ball away. He didn't look
frustrating.
Man, it was very frustrating. And like I said earlier, Hwang's industrious. There's obviously more to come from him quality-wise, but it is a great question. And, Bruno was fair to make the changes. Have they done enough, to keep the place inside? I don't know. I'd argue.
We'll save that bit for the team bit afterwards. But let's try and get a couple more in because I'm keen to respond to everyone that's got the time to ask us a question. Colin Noakes, what's the mystery with Bolly not playing as our best centre back? And I think I'll answer this one. I think we covered that a bit earlier on. I think one of you guys said we've got to be careful because he's had an injury. Now he's played his first 90 minutes of first team football in a long time. I personally don't think it's because he doesn't fancy him. I think it's because, as you said, he'd have been sore. Not 90 minutes pro football. He'd have been. Is Bolly 30, 31 now? I think he's not a young guy, and you have to sort of nurse those players back in. Last thing we want is another centre back injury, particularly with Mascara, and maybe that's on their mind because they're going to be running out of centre backs soon. So, for me, I think it's impossible not to fancy Bolly because he's clearly the centre back we need, that big physical presence, and he's very cultured. So there's definitely a place in the back three for him there. Maybe we'll see it soon, but maybe we'll see. He's had a week and a half to recover. Maybe we'll see it against Newcastle. Let me just see if there's any more questions before we move on to the team for Saturday. Another one from Chris Worsfold. We all liked Bruno Ball in the first 3 games, but is anyone concerned how badly they are playing now under Bruno? Night performances after 8 games are very varied. Knocker, we love Bruno Ball to start with, but we love winning, don't we? So we don't care how we play. How are we going to take that one?
I think managers need to be fluid, and the system he was playing originally, the style of play we were playing was playing some good football, but we weren't scoring goals. So a little tweak here and there, get yourself a few results, get yourself back into the positions you want to be in, and then you can start evolving back towards the way we were in the first few games, but hopefully with more of an end result.
Jay Little commented to Chris's original there. He said, it's still Nuno's team, unfortunately. Bar Trincao and Hwang, it's still early days to judge Bruno. And I think that's fair as well, because we all talked about, we knew we needed a centre-back, we needed a centre midfielder. We've known it for ages. It didn't happen again. Excuses, bad planning, poor recruitment, whatever. And that's really fair from Jay, what he said there, because this is still effectively only one or two players of Bruno's choice. So I think he's done okay so far. I think he's still learning about who can do what and where. So I'm quite happy. I think I've answered all the questions there. Thank you for all your comments and questions. Apologies, there's no question format on the Twitter. I quite enjoyed answering those last week, but we've had quite a few, particularly from Martin. So thank you again. Got about 9 minutes to the show left. Let's move on to the game against Newcastle. Big opportunity. The game after Newcastle is Villa. Really don't want to have a bad result against them. I'd like to be 2 wins on the bounce, going into Villa with a bit of confidence. Ideally with a good performance, not just an industrial performance. Tyler, talk me through your team, bearing in mind Knocker's got to speak as well, and we've got 8.5 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, how long have we got? He's having a blast of the past, Knocker, isn't he, with this team? But
I'm having a great time.
It's a funny one, because the team I want is the team I'm going to get. But the team I would like to play is Sarr in goal. I'm still going to my back four of Semedo, Bolly, Kilman, and Rory. I'd bring Dane Donker in alongside Neves, especially if we're playing a back four and the wing backs are quite progressive. Traore and Podence wide, but I'd probably like to see them, as we started the season,
closer.
Inverted. Yeah, I like Adama coming inside, and the performances against Spurs and where he's beating them.
Sensational.
I just think he's more dangerous. And then Trincao and Hwang, there's not a lot between it for me, but I'd probably go at home where I think we might get a bit of time to play. I might put Trincao in behind Jimenez. I think it's quite easy to keep the same team, and I think we did that against Brentford, and it backfired. We didn't have the right players for that type of game, and I'm conscious of that happened again. Newcastle are a funny one, aren't they? They've got some good attacking players. Saint-Maximin is their version of Adama. I'd like to just get on the front foot. I'd like to start the game positively, and I think that gives you that option. And as I said at the start, Bolly, Neves and Adama always play for me anyway, so that's why I've gone with it. It won't happen. I'm sure it'll be a back three again. It might be a similar lineup, but what I'd want would be a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, just a couple of comments to bring in. Ashley Bentley said, need to keep with the back five to protect from Newcastle's counter-attacking style. Ignoring Semedo's pace. I think sticking with the back five, I could probably swallow that a little bit more if we had Aït-Nouri in there, because then you've got two wing backs getting up a lot, and probably Adama back in the team as well. Thank you for your comment. Ashley, could be wrong, but I don't think Wolves have beat Newcastle since we got promoted. Put your money on a 1-1 draw, Wayne. Yeah, would you always seem to draw 1-1 with Newcastle? But
yeah, we do.
One last comment there. Martin agreed with you again. You two need to be speaking on Twitter more often, because you see, and protecting the 10. I absolutely agree. So, Knocker, talk to me through your team on Saturday and why.
My team on Saturday would be exactly the same as Tyler's just said. I'm worried about this game. I'm genuinely quite worried about this one. I think, I am. Yeah, I'm concerned about this one. But I think we'll go three at the back, because I do think they've got a lot more threat than Southampton going forward. Yeah, they've got some raw pace. Saint-Maximin, again, he's very similar to Traore. He can wallop one in the top corner, or he can put it through as the window. He's just a complete lottery of what he'll do on the day. But I do think the danger's coming forward, so I fully expect us to stick with the three. I think Adama comes back in, because I think he's more likely that we'll have opportunities to break. I think Neves comes back in with Dendoncker. Other than that, I'm not expecting a great deal of difference. I would agree as well. Hopefully, Trincao comes in for Wang, because I think Wang is an excellent impact player because he's such a pain in the backside for defenders. So you bring him on in the second half when they're all a little bit tired, and maybe you get a bit of joy there. But yeah, for me, I'll go 4-2-3-1, but I do expect you to stick with the three at the back.
Yeah, I'm. As everyone will never listen or read anything I ever say or write knows, I'm absolutely desperate for a back four. But you know what? I don't think it will happen yet. I think if he'd have done it against Spurs and we'd have progressed from there. So I think this is here for the foreseeable now. I didn't really want to accept that. Like last week, I didn't really want to accept anything about Fabio, but I have to accept it. So looking at the team, I've got to say the three centre-backs did well. Have Newcastle got an aerial threat or a bully like Brentford have? I don't think they have. I think they've got more pace. I don't think Wolves did enough on Saturday on the left-hand side with Marçal. I think Ait-Nouri has to start. I thought he was good against Spurs. I think he's an extra added attacking option. Now, something you mentioned earlier on, Chris, about Wolves always seeming going to the left. I think naturally, if two of the three centre-backs are left-footed, I think naturally the ball will go left more. I just think the way you line up in football, and that's just a subconscious thing that you play to your stronger side. So maybe that's why a lot of our play goes down the left. I don't know. That's just an opinion. It's not science. I'm just thinking about what you said. Yeah. I don't think you can leave out Neves for too long. He needed a game out because he had a stinker against Spurs. But other than that, he's been pretty brilliant with some of his play. Coming alongside Dendoncker, I'll be happy with those two. I don't think we can leave out Adama again either. I don't think Podence or Hwang did enough for me. I thought there's a lot of effort, a lot of guile and graft in there. We've not really talked about Trincao. He had a stinker last week, but who didn't have a stinker last week? I think Trincao is a very gifted footballer who would want playing in a team that I'd expect to be pressing a little bit higher up. I don't want him sitting as deep as the Southampton game. I think there's goals to be had. And I think with the forward options that Wolves have, I don't think they've done it enough. But I think if you go toe-to-toe with most teams, I think you can outgun most. Probably won't see that fully until there's a four at the back. But
I think on the question there about, worried about Newcastle. I'm sorry, they need to be worrying about us. We're the home team. The emphasis is on us to go and be on the front foot. And I think that's where we struggled against Brentford, was that quick start. Against Tottenham and Man U, we started very well. And I think when Wolves play with an urgency and a pace, they're a totally different team to the passive one that we see. So for me, you've got to take, of course, you've got to take the opponents into serious thought. But if we're worried about Newcastle and what they can do, crikey, we've got a lot of other teams to be worried about this season, haven't we? So I just like to see positive front foot.
Well, I think naturally, from what we've experienced in the past, we can't help in our DNA. We just worry about our football team. And I guess that's a nationwide thing because you worry and live about what your football team. You always worry about the next game. It wasn't a good performance yesterday, but the only stats really counts was the score. I think Wolves will be a different team with a more confident Raul. But what a nice position to be in when you've got Ait-Nouri, who was excellent, Willy Boly, who's probably the best centre-back if he finds Willy Boly's old form. When you've got Adama and Neves, that's nice to be in that position to have a positive problem. So let's have some predictions. Just to tell you, last weekend I told you who'd score the goal and I told you who'd win. So I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy with that, guys. So Tyler, quickly tell me the score and the Wolves' first scorer.
Yeah, just to note, I got the scorer right, didn't I? I said 1-1, but it's time for Raul to come to the party. I don't think I'm going to predict us to win the game all season, to be honest, after the Brentford debacle. So I'm probably going to say 1-1 again, but hoping that we might win it 2-1. Who's going to score it, crikey? Would you put your money on?
Come on, mate, we're almost on next week's show.
Let's hope Jimenez has, kicked himself off if he can get another one. So 1-1 with Jimenez, but realistically, I want us to win 2-1.
Knocker, you've got 30 seconds. Tell me your goal scorer and the score.
It's probably going to be 1-1, but I'll go with my Wolves head and I'll go 2-0 to Wolves, Jimenez brace.
Excellent. I'm going to go 3-1 to Wolves and Jimenez first scorer. Thank you to Tyler and Knocker for joining me, Ryan Lester, on the Wolves Report for episode 7. I hope you've enjoyed it. You can follow the Wolves Report on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you for watching. I hope you join us again next week. Up the Wolves.